Last night I had to call the cops for the first time in my entire life, and then 4 hours later I had to call the cops for the second time in my entire life.
Across the hall neighbor had started stalking me.
My neighbor with a knife knocking on my window.
The Bible says love their neighbor, but the Bible didn't say anything about loving their loud music, their crazy antics, or that 3 a.m. argument with a significant other. I mean, sweetheart, come on. Who needs to sleep when you got a neighbor that thinks the world is ending tomorrow? Hi besties, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're sharing some crazy neighbor nightmare and how these content creators we're about to watch learn to love them, or should I say tolerate them. So buckle up and let's dive into the video.
I just had to call the cops for the first time in my entire life. I'm a little rattled. So last night there was this lady just belligerent, screaming in the parking lot. Like she got into some sort of altercation with these 2 girls that I guess live in her building. Like they're like younger girls. She has to be like 50 something, okay? And she's screaming all this crazy racist stuff, just in general calling them every book in the name. It was terrible. And the cops get there and it's a whole thing. And basically she was screaming at the cops because they wouldn't arrest the girls, and they're like, you're the belligerent one here. Anyway, I just heard her screaming in the parking lot again. And I look out. This time it's like a 14-year-old boy she's yelling at, chasing after. He's clearly trying to get away from her. He is screaming that she assaulted his father, all this stuff, okay? I took a short video of that literally just to show my property manager, and then a little bit later I hear her yelling out there again. This time no one else is out there, and she's keying someone's car, and she's like, how about this? How about this? Yeah, I'm gonna do my name. She literally said that. She keyed the car with her own name. And I'm like, oh my God, I was gonna just leave a note and say, I have the video of the person who keyed your car with my phone number, but I was terrified that she would see it first and either take it off or use it to target me, and she would have my phone number at that point. So she keys the car, the back, the front, the sides, the other side, and then gets in her own car, peels out of the parking lot so fast, so dangerous, and she's definitely drunk. So the cops get here, and they are very familiar with her. Apparently last night was not like the first time they've had an issue with her. Get ready for this plot twist. You're not even ready. It was her own car. The car is registered to her. So the working theory is the boyfriend that she beat up and that little kid ran away from, not little kid, he was like 14, but she went out, keyed the car that I guess she bought for him, and gave herself thousands of dollars worth of damage on a car that she owns. And they're like, we can't press charges for keying her own car. Like, she could do that if she wants, I guess. But they're like, we're going to document it just because there's so many other things going on with her. But like, oh my God. Have you ever gotten so mad you key your own car? Is that relatable? Last night I had to call the cops for the first time in my entire life. And then 4 hours later I had to call the cops for the second time in my entire life. Now this story is insane no matter what, but if you want the full context, the first cop call is like 2 videos back. Okay, so the first time I called was around 6 o'clock at night. They came, they left, whatever. So then it's like 11 o'clock at night, I want to say, last night, and I'm starting to hear weird stuff in the parking lot again. And I look out the window because I'm like, oh my God, what is she doing now? And she's in the very back corner. It's like a fence. She's in the corner of the fence, and there's like a couple cars parked right there. And she's carrying on, she's yelling stuff, and I'm hearing a weird noise that I cannot place. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm seeing her flashlight flash all around, and then I realize she is spray painting a white Ford F-150. Just like when she keyed the car, the front, the back, the sides, she's cracking up as she's doing this. And now I'm like, oh my God, great, I have to call the cops again, because I understand that like they couldn't do anything with the first time because it was her car that she keyed. And I'm like, okay, maybe she has 2 cars in the parking lot. Surely she doesn't have 3. By the time the cops get here, she's working on a second car. She finished up her artwork on the Ford F-150, moves over to another one. She moves on from the Ford F-150, and she's working on the white car. I don't know what kind of car it is. Working on the white car, and this is when the cops come. The cops got there in like 0.5 seconds this time, and they're just like, what are you doing? And same situation. And she's like, they're my cars. They're registered to me. I can do what I want with my car. Da, da, da. And they're like, okay. They check it, and there are 2 more of her cars. So, also, side note, this means she has 4 cars in the parking lot. No wonder there's no parking, ever. She's hogging up all the parking spots. So in one night, she vandalized 3 cars, all registered to her, all that she's paying for, because she's mad at her boyfriend, who I guess drives these cars. I don't know.
The reason that I moved is my across the hall neighbor had started stalking me, and they tried to break in my apartment. Okay, let me just set the scene for you guys. So this man is like 45, maybe 50, like way older than me, right? So from like the moment this man had moved in, he had been trying to talk to me like, oh, you're so beautiful. Like, oh, when are you gonna let me take you on a date? When are you gonna let me give you a massage? But I made it super clear that I was not interested, like super clear. But like that did not stop him from still trying to talk to me. Keep in mind, he lives directly across the hall from me, and I have 2 big dogs. This is one of them. This is Deuce. He's a pit bull mastiff mix. Every time I would like open my door or go in the hallway, he could hear that I was in the hallway because he lived directly across from me and they were old wooden floors. So every time he would hear me go outside, guess who was outside? Guess who was following me outside? He started like going out of his way to pet the dogs and like talk to the dogs, and he would say weird stuff to me. Like I would just keep walking, but he would be like, oh, I need the dogs to like me. I need the dogs to think I'm not scary. I need the dogs to think I'm friendly. What? Fast forward to this one particular Sunday. He like this day, literally, it was worse than it had ever been. I took my dogs for a walk. He like was following me everywhere. He was making me so uncomfortable. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna remove myself from the situation. So I took the dogs and we went to the park. He follows me outside. I go to my car. I leave. So when I come back in, I go through the back door, which is like a door and then the long hallway, and our 2 apartments were right by the front, like the front door, but you could see all the way down the hallway. So he hears me and my 2 horses walking down the hallway and comes out. So he's standing in front of my door and he like won't let me in. He keeps trying to talk to me like, why won't you talk to me? Why won't you be my friend? Why won't you talk to me? Why won't you let me pet the dogs? And at this point, like I'm very uncomfortable. So I literally physically move him out of the way and go into my apartment and like shut the door and lock it and watch him through my peephole just watching me. So I wait for him to go back into his apartment. Like I'm watching him, and I had gotten the dogs dog food, so I had to go back to the car to get it. But like my gut feeling was like, Emily, lock your door. Like he's been real weird today. So I'm going to like walk back into my building. Literally go to open the door. I'm holding an 80-pound bag of dog food. And lo and behold, I see this man trying to pick my lock.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pets.
Wow, Susie, that is so crazy. But let me tell you about the time my neighbor tried to off my entire family. So my parents rented this house when I was 10 years old, and it honestly should have been a red flag as soon as we moved in, because my mom told me that the neighbor's wife would tell her all about how she hated children and how she was glad all of her children were taken away from her, but she was upset because she just got one of them back. So my neighbor, the husband, he used to just say the most insane, off-the-wall things to my mom. He used to call her all kinds of like profane words and awful things in front of us. He didn't care. But the thing is, he would only do this when my dad wasn't around. And one day, my dad didn't park on our street for whatever reason, probably to catch the neighbor. And my brother, who was 3 years old, was playing with a ball in the front yard, and he accidentally kicked it into the neighbor's yard. And the neighbor didn't see my dad sitting on the porch, and he started screaming at my 3-year-old brother, cursing at him and threatening him. So my dad jumped off the porch with a baseball bat and chased after the neighbor, who ran into his house promptly. So then my parents got us a trampoline, and my neighbor decided it was a nuisance and was constantly screaming at us and calling the police on us because we were being too loud, apparently, in the middle of the day. So then he started recording us jumping on the trampoline, and he said that he could because it was his private property. So my mom called the police, and the police said that that was true, that he could record small children jumping on the trampoline and do whatever he wanted with those videos because it was his private property. So the verbal abuse to my mother continued, and my mom's friends seen it, my neighbors seen it, people made multiple reports to police. There was nothing they could do. And then one night, I wake up in the middle of the night because I heard someone knocking on the window, and there's my neighbor with a knife knocking on my window. I was literally frozen in bed, so I go to my parents' room after he walked away, and I heard him on the trampoline, and I told my mom and dad, I said, Mom, the neighbor just knocked on my window with a knife, and now he's jumping on the trampoline. I used to have really bad night terrors, so my mom and dad were like, yeah, go back to bed, we don't believe you. So the next morning I wake up and there's a police officer in my kitchen, and my mom and dad had called the police because our trampoline was literally sliced down the middle. And the police officer asked me to tell him what I saw. He said, basically, we could probably do something about it because there was a witness, but that if this ever went to court or anything like that, the neighbor could contest it because I was only 10 years old. So my mom got a hold of every single kid on the block and called every single one of her friends and family members with children. And we had like a giant boom box. We played music as loud as we possibly could. We put a kiddie pool underneath the trampoline, and we basically just had a huge party. The neighbors started recording us, so a lot of the parents decided to leave with their children because they did not want their children recorded playing in the backyard. So then the neighbor started like doing really crazy things. He started like screaming randomly, just doing weird stuff. He carved like a scary face in our tree. It didn't really bother us. I'm not sure what the point of that was. And one night while my dad was at work, my siblings and I were sitting in the living room with our mom watching Batman, and all of a sudden the power went out. The neighbor had cut the power to our house. My mom picked up the phone, and he had cut the phone lines as well. So my mom made us all hide under a computer desk in our living room because it was as far away from any window or door as she could possibly find for us. So she hides us all, and then she calls 911. She only had a track phone. And then my neighbor calls my mom on her track phone and was like, "Are you guys okay? Are you safe?" And my mom was like, "Yeah, we're okay." And then all of a sudden, like I think we heard glass break or something. And then next thing I know, he's playing like heavy metal music into our house, extremely loud. My mom really couldn't hear much over the phone. And my neighbor basically told her like, "Hey, I see him pacing in your yard. I called 911 too. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to come get you guys soon." So then the neighbor said that while she was watching, because her house had like a back deck that was really, really high, so she could actually see into both of our backyards. And she said that she was watching him literally pace around our house and pace around his backyard. She thought he had a weapon. I don't actually remember for sure if he had a weapon or not, but next thing I know, bunch of police officers showed up at my house, and they literally I remember one by one carried us out of the house as fast as they could and got us into a car. They did arrest my neighbor. They said he was on all kinds of narcotics and different types of drugs, and basically were yeah, he probably had the intention of offing all of you. They said he was talking to himself and pacing. When we were walking out of the house, I could hear him screaming. I don't know if he was screaming at us, probably, but I could hear him screaming. So later we learned from the police officers that the neighbor's wife had moved out weeks or months before he did, and he was literally refusing to leave because he was not going to leave before we did. So my parents promptly moved, and we got a restraining order, and that's the end of that story. I'm not sure what that guy's up to now. But yeah, Susie, I agree with you. Store-bought pesto is kind of crazy, especially if you can make it yourself.
Living in London is great until you live in a flat that has paper-thin walls and you have to listen to your neighbor constantly talking. He literally doesn't stop talking. And by talking, I mean yelling, essentially. I can hear him clearing his throat, coughing constantly, farting, every bodily function. I can hear this at any hour of the day, and it's especially bad at nighttime. Every night, usually commencing around 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., this starts in full force. Then I hear stomping, slamming doors, and loud talking nonstop. It just doesn't stop. I don't understand what this man could be talking about that often, but yeah, it just doesn't stop. And yeah, it'll drive you a little crazy. And that's what's happening to me right now.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys can hear my background, but what do you guys do when your neighbors downstairs make a lot of noise? I don't know if you guys can hear that. I feel like he might have Tourette's or something. I'm not joking, but I feel like he might, because it's just I don't know. It's like he's yelling, he's banging stuff, but it's every couple minutes. And my boyfriend and I have had two, not altercations, but we've had run-ins with him, my boyfriend with him by themselves, about the noise, because he has been going to the office saying that we have been causing noise, which is crazy to me. And then a second time this past weekend, when the neighbor below him came up to his apartment and asked him to, can he lower the noise down? And he got into a yelling match with that neighbor. And in turn, while they're going back and forth, he brings us up saying that we're making a lot of noise. So we go downstairs and we're like, what the hell do we have to do with your argument with him? Right? So that turned into a whole other thing. Like it was like a whole big blow for no reason, where, you know, he went back to the office again complaining about us, and we went to the office as well because we want to document it. But he works from home and I work from home 2 days out of the week. So on my days working from home, I'm hearing it all day long. It's like crazy. I don't know what he's doing, but today is like on 20. Like I don't know what else to do. Like, we've been going to the office. It's not, it sounds like it's a health condition if I'm not mistaken, but it's ridiculous. Like, I don't know what to do. What do you guys do in that instance? Like, it's crazy. Like, we could even hear this man snoring at night. Like, I don't know what to do.
Well, if these neighbors do not deserve a spot in the world craziest neighbors, I don't know who does. Because seriously, I've started to think some neighbors are straight from hell. And while you are sitting there and thanking the universe for your peaceful and boring neighborhood, just remember, they could be planning their next big stunts as we speak. The horror. But at least it makes life interesting, right? If there's one thing you have learned today, we have learned that you can never truly be alone when you have a neighbor who thinks normal is overrated. Speaking about strange neighbors, if you have any crazy neighbor stories of your own, please do not keep it to yourself. Drop it in the comment section. And also, besties, do not forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet. Subscribe to the channel. And also turn on the bell notification for more fun content like this. Until next time, keep your doors and windows locked.